Hey, welcome back! Today we're going to be looking at William Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, Act 3. And we're returning to the rude mechanicals, that bunch of hard-working men who are not very intelligent, who are trying very hard to put on a play for the Duke's wedding. We also want to remember, according to the plot diagram, that Act 3 of a Shakespeare play is the climax. And here we are in the darkest part of midnight, in the middle of the woods, where we're going to be looking for things that turn the action. And since this is a comedy, we're going to look for the moment that things get the most chaotic, but then turn ultimately towards a positive ending. Things definitely got chaotic for our four lovers in the last act, as Puck accidentally enchanted Lysander rather than Demetrius. So rather than sorting out the four lovers, we now have Lysander, who's in love with the wrong person, and Demetrius, who's in love with the wrong person. And everyone is very confused. How will all of this get sorted out? Well, we'll see in this act. Scene 1 of Act 3 happens in the exact same place that the last scene happened. In fact, some people see it as almost a continuation of the previous scene. We still have Titania asleep on the stage, but in come all of the rude mechanicals who are ready to put on their play. And they're excited to rehearse out here in the woods where no one can see them. But before they can begin, Bottom has several problems that he noticed with the script that need to be fixed. They're all things that most of us wouldn't see as problems at all. Whenever we go to see a play or a movie or some other production, it's assumed that there's going to be a suspension of disbelief. Suspension of disbelief means that the audience will allow themselves to pretend like this is real for the space of the production so that they can have the emotional reaction to it that's appropriate. If during the entire production you are noticing and paying attention to how this is not real, these people are just actors, the scenes of pain and suffering and joy are not real emotions, they're just people pretending to have these emotions, you're not going to enjoy it in the same way as if you invest yourself in the story. However, Bottom and the other actors here seem to fail to understand that an audience can suspend their disbelief. They take things altogether too literally. The first problem that Bottom notices is that people are going to kill themselves on stage, and they're afraid that the audience will be frightened by this. Starveling suggests maybe they could just leave the killing out of the play, even though it's the center of the plot. But Bottom just decides that they should have a prologue that explains that this is all just acting, not to worry, we're not really going to kill ourselves. This will put them out of fear. Snout also notices that the ladies will probably be frightened of the lion. But Bottom fixes this by suggesting that Snug just open up the mask of the lion, have part of his face hanging out, and have him go before the audience and explain that he's not really a lion, not to worry, he's just a man pretending to be a lion. Then Peter Quince notices that the script says that they need to meet by moonlight. But what if there's no moon? How are we going to get a moon in the stage? And they decide maybe they can just open a window, and if the moon doesn't shine through the window, then one of them can come out dressed as the moon. But there's also the problem that Pyramus and Thisbe are supposed to speak through a wall, the wall between their households. And rather than realize that in a performance you're going to create a fake wall, they have a character who's going to come up there and pretend to be the wall. Some man or other must present wall, and let him have some plaster or some loam or some rough cast about him to signify wall. Or let him hold his fingers thus, and through that cranny shall Pyramus and Thisbe whisper. Everything they add to the play to try to make it better is clearly going to make it so much worse. Just at this moment, Robin Goodfellow shows up, and observing this rather comical attempt at producing a play, he decides that he's going to watch and laugh at it, and maybe even join in a little bit with some of his magic. They begin rehearsal, and it's going rather terribly. Bottom is confusing his words, Thisbe is reading all of her lines all at the same time, rather than waiting for Bottom to speak, and Quince is scrambling around trying to get them all in the right place. But after just a brief moment of this, Bottom, as Pyramus, walks off the stage into the bushes, according to the script. And Puck decides this is a good time to intervene, so he follows Bottom off the stage. A moment later, they've realized that Bottom has missed his cue, so they call him back on the stage. And when he returns, he has been transformed. So you may recall how we talked about the woods in fairy tales as a place of transformation and reversal. Here, with a little bit of magic from Puck, Bottom has been transformed. His head has been transformed into that of an ass or a donkey. Now, there clearly is a little bit of clever, mildly inappropriate punning on Shakespeare's part here, especially since his last name is Bottom. In Shakespeare's day, and really carrying over all the way to today, a donkey was thought to be a rather foolish and stubborn animal. And to call someone an ass was to call them foolish. And when Bottom comes back in quoting his lines, but his head has been transformed into that of an ass, the rest of the players are terrified and they all run away. And Puck feeds their fear by chasing them around and transforming himself into various shadows and forms, making them feel as though they're pursued by monsters until they all run away, except poor Bottom, who's left all alone in the woods. Bottom apparently hasn't realized that he's been transformed, and so he begins to try to comfort himself by singing. I will walk up and down here, and I will sing, that they shall hear I am not afraid. The odsel cock so black of hue, with orange tawny bill, the throstle with his note so true, the wren with little quill. And his terrible singing then awakes Titania. And of course, because she's been enchanted by Oberon, she immediately falls in love with Bottom. I pray thee, gentle mortal, sing again. Mine ear is much enamored of thy note, so is mine eye enthralled to thy shape. And thy fair virtue's force perforce doth move me on the first view to say, to swear, I love thee. Bottom comments that she should have little reason to love him, but, to say truth, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. Good homegrown wisdom, but it does mirror some of what Lysander was saying earlier when he fell in love with Helena, and believed that now it was his reason that was making him love, when he was obviously just enchanted. Bottom wants to get out of the woods, since he's lost in the woods now, but Titania instead decides to keep him forever, and she calls up her fairy servants to serve him and to see to all of his needs. Be kind and courteous to this gentleman, hop in his walks and gambol in his eyes, feed him with apricots and dewberries, with purple grapes, green figs, and mulberries. The honey bags steal from the humble bees, and for night tapers crop their waxen thighs, and light them at the fiery glowworm's eyes, to have my love to bed and to arise, and pluck the wings from painted butterflies, to fan the moonbeams from his sleeping eyes. Nod to him, elves, and do him courtesies. After this, we have a fun exchange back and forth where Bottom is meeting each of the fairy servants that he's been sent, and based upon their name, because they all have natural names, they're all associated with natural things, mustard seed, peas blossom, cobweb, etc. And each one he makes comments to them based upon their names. Although entrapped and enchanted by a fairy, Bottom seems to be enjoying himself. And after a few moments, Titania says, Come, wait upon him, lead him to my bower. The moon, methinks, looks with a watery eye, and when she weeps, weeps every little flower, lamenting some enforced chastity. Tie up my lover's tongue, bring him silently. So she takes him off to her bower to snuggle, I guess. And it's funny because she decides that she's going to tie up her lover's tongue. She's going to enchant him so will stop blathering all the time. End of scene 1. Scene 2 opens with a meeting between Oberon and Robin Goodfellow, in which Robin reports all of the things he's done, how he enchanted Bottom and made Titania fall in love with him. And he also reports on how successful he was in repairing the relationship between Demetrius and Helena. Yes, I found that young Athenian man, and I enchanted his eyes, and I think everything's worked out just fine. However, at that moment, in wanders Demetrius and Hermia. It seems that as the two of them were wandering around, Demetrius found Hermia. Hermia is still looking for her lost Lysander. She's afraid that Demetrius has killed Lysander in his sleep, because there's no way Lysander would have left her otherwise. But when Demetrius says, yeah, I hate his guts, but, I haven't done anything to him, Hermia storms off. And Demetrius, exhausted after chasing her all night, decides to lie down and fall asleep. Oberon is upset with Robin because he enchanted the wrong person. What hast thou done? Thou hast mistaken quite, and laid the love juice on some true love's sight. Of thy misprison must perforce ensue some true love turned, and not a false turn true. And Robin's like, well, I guess fate overruled me. So Oberon sends him out to find Helena and bring her back here. Meanwhile, he enchants Demetrius with the love juice. flower of this purple dye, hit with Cupid's archery, sink in apple of his eye. Win his love he doth espy, let her shine as gloriously as the Venus of the sky. When thou wakest, if she be by, beg of her for remedy. And Robin comes back, having led Helena this way, and he seems to be a little bit too happy about all of this. Shall we their fond pageants see? Lord, what fools these mortals be. A good key line from this play. It's a comedy, it explores human foolishness. He's also in delightful anticipation of what will happen when Demetrius wakes up and falls in love with Helena. Then will two at once woo one, that must needs be sport alone. And those things do best please me, that befall preposterously. Robin is finding all of this very entertaining. Lysander and Helena come in, and they're still in the same situation. Lysander is pleading with Helena to love him, and Helena thinks he's still making fun of her, and she's very upset. And their argument back and forth wakes up Demetrius, who of course immediately falls in love with Helena. Oh, Helen, goddess, nymph, perfect, divine, to what, my love, shall I compare thine eyne? Crystal is muddy. Oh, how ripened show thy lips, those kissing cherries tempting grow, that pure congealed white, high Taurus snow, fanned with the eastern wind, turns to a crow when thou hold'st up thy hand. Oh, let me kiss this princess of pure white, this seal of bliss. Instead of being happy that all of a sudden the guy she likes is in love with her, Helena assumes that Demetrius has joined in with Lysander to make fun of her. Can you not hate me as I do know you do, but you must join in souls to mock me too? If you were men, as men you are in show, you would not use a gentle lady so to vow and swear and superpraise my parts, when I am sure you hate me with your hearts. You both are rivals and love Hermia, and now both rivals to mock Helena. And so Lysander and Demetrius begin to argue with each other, angry that the other person is teasing Helena. And all of this noise finally attracts Hermia, who hears Lysander's voice and so follows it and stumbles into the area with all of them. Now all four are back together. And she immediately asks Lysander, "Why did you leave me? What happened?" And Lysander begins talking of his love to Helena, and Hermia is very confused. But Helena gets the impression that Hermia is in on the joke, and all three of them have decided to team up to make fun of her. Lo, she is one of this confederacy. Now I perceive they have conjoined all three to fashion this false sport in spite of me. Injurious Hermia, most ungrateful maid, have you conspired? Have you with these contrived to bait me with this foul derision? Is all the counsel that we two have shared, the sisters' vows, the hours that we have spent when we have chid the hasty-footed time for parting us, oh, is all forgot? All school days' friendship, childhood innocence? We, Hermia, like two artificial gods, have with our needles created both one flower, both on one sampler, sitting on one cushion, both warbling one song, both in one key. As if our hands, our sides, voices, and minds had been incorporate. So we grew together like a double cherry, seeming parted yet a union in partition, two lovely berries molded on one stem. So with two seeming bodies, but one heart, two of the first like coats in heraldry, due but to one, and crowned with the crest. And will you rent our ancient love asunder, to join with men in scorning your poor friend? It is not friendly, 'tis not maidenly. Our sex, as well as I, may chide you for it, though I alone do feel the injury. It's maybe a tad bit ironic that Helena is bringing up their whole past, how they loved each other, how they were so close, they grew together like two cherries on one stem. They were inseparable all of their life, and now Hermia is betraying her like this. Helena seems to forget that she was the one who betrayed Hermia by telling Demetrius about her escape. Hermia is completely baffled. She has no idea what's going on. And Helena decides maybe she better just leave since all of them are making fun of her. And Lysander and Demetrius begin to beg her to stay, but pretty quickly they turn to like thumping their chests against each other again and deciding that maybe they should fight each other. Things get more and more chaotic and ridiculous as Hermia tries to hold Lysander back from fighting Demetrius. She still doesn't understand why. And Demetrius is calling Lysander a coward, and both of them start insulting Hermia up and down. In the middle of this, Lysander says, "I hate you, Hermia," and Hermia is completely confused. She said, "What? Can you do me greater harm than hate? Hate me? Wherefore? Oh me! What news, my love? Am I not Hermia? Are not you Lysander? I am as fair now as I was erewhile. Since night you loved me, yet since night you left me. Why then, you left me. Oh, the gods forbid. In earnest, shall I say? Notice, again, the whole concept of the woods and the magic and the chaos. We mentioned that in the woods, characters are transformed and experience reversal. Hermia is so transformed, she finds that she doesn't know who she is or who Lysander is. She used to believe in their love. She used to believe in herself and in Lysander and that they would be together forever. But now that everything is so bizarre and confusing, Lysander's not acting like himself, she begins to question whether she is Hermia and whether Lysander is Lysander. And when Lysander confirms that yes, he no longer loves her, then Hermia turns on Helena and thinks of Helena as a homewrecker who has stolen Lysander's love away from her. And then the insults really start to fly, and they begin to emphasize each other's physical characteristics. Throughout the play, we've emphasized that Helena is a tall blonde, and Hermia is a short brunette. And Helena starts letting slip short jokes about Hermia, until finally Hermia is ready to claw out Helena's eyes. How low am I, thou painted maypole? Speak! How low am I? I am not yet so low, but my nails can reach into thine eyes. And Helena's like trying to hide behind the guys and be like, don't let her hurt me! Though she be but little, she is fierce. And Demetrius and Lysander act like they're going to protect Helena, but then they get so much into fighting with each other that they decide to walk away and have a duel, leaving Helena at Hermia's mercy. Helena dashes off saying, your hands than mine are quicker for a fray, my legs are longer though to run away. After they've all dashed off stage, Oberon turns to Robin and says, you did all this on purpose, didn't you? But Robin says, believe me, King of Shadows, I mistook. Did you not tell me I should know the man by the Athenian garments he had on? And so far blameless proves my enterprise that I have anointed an Athenian's eyes. And so far, am I glad it did so sort, as this their jangling I esteem a sport. So Robin definitely didn't do this on purpose, and yet he's thoroughly enjoying all the chaos. It is pretty funny. But Oberon decides it's time to set everything right. Remember that Oberon wants to create relationships that are in the right order, that are balanced. And so Oberon sends Robin to go take care of the two dueling men. Keep them from hurting each other. Lead them around and around. Until in exhaustion they fall asleep. And then take this, which is the antidote, and put it in Lysander's eyes, so that when he wakes up, he will be back in love with Hermia and everything will be set right. Meanwhile, Oberon is going to go back to Titania and beg the child of her. And afterwards, he can disenchant her. Robin points out that they'd better hurry up because morning is not terribly far away. We've moved through the middle of the night and now we're turning. Oberon points out that they are fairies of a different sort. Their magic still works in the daytime, even though night is more associated with magic. But he says, yes, it would be appropriate to wrap all this up before morning. And so Robin dances through the woods and leads all four of the lovers around, using each other's voices to distract them and keep them from running into each other. He uses Demetrius' voice to lure Lysander around and around till in exhaustion Lysander lies down and falls asleep. Then he does the same with Demetrius, leading Demetrius right over to where Lysander is without him realizing it, and he settles down and falls asleep as well. In comes Helena, exhausted and grieving, and she lies down in the middle here as well. Yet but three, come one more. Two of both kinds makes up four. Here she comes, cursed and sad. Cupid is a knavish lad, thus to make poor females mad. And finally in comes Hermia as well. And although she was incredibly angry earlier, that's finally gone out, her fires have burned out, and all she is hoping that Lysander is safe as she lies down to go to sleep. Now that all four of them are lying down together without even realizing it, Robin goes over and disenchants Lysander. When thou wakest, thou takest true delight in the sight of thy former lady's eye, and the country proverb known, that every man should take his own, in your waking shall be shown. Jack shall have Jill, naught shall go ill. The man shall have his mare again, and all shall be well. We're finally setting things right. We are putting things in the right order. Each of them is settled with the person that they're supposed to be with. And the chaos and the disorder of the night is turned. In Act 4, there are still some problems left to be resolved. According to Athenian law, Lysander and Hermia still can't marry. The play of the Rude Mechanicals have never even been rehearsed, and bottom is lost. And we still haven't resolved the relationship between Oberon and Titania. But we've turned a corner, and we're going in the right direction. Into the morning, into the daylight, and back to order. but this time an order that is more balanced. We'll see how the rest of the problems are ironed out in Act 4. Thanks for watching! If you'd like to have some more study helps, I have several cool things over on my Patreon page, where subscriptions start out at only $1 a month. You can also click to subscribe here on YouTube and watch another video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.